this git here is Brandon Van Den. He's actually been on the channel. He was the first ever channel guest back when we had horrible audio and video, and we had like 400 subs or something, right? So, but my boy was there, so I'm glad to see that he's still doing well. Nova is his event, and Nova is where my boy shined. So he got number 46, but Nova's like 300 and something players. He ended up playing, it was 9 games, right? 9 games, right? He ended up playing 9 games because he actually made it that far to you continue to keep playing that, right? Because not everybody played that. If you look down these rankings as I'm scrolling, 6 was kind of the regular. I've showed other players, but he was the number 1 performing Ork player. There are other good players. Shout out to Wildcat in our Discord. My boy's Wildcat. Make sure I mess up. Tiger Melts, excuse me. Shout out to Tiger Melts in Discord. He did well too at this event. But Brandon, with his Dread Mob, ended up getting 5 and 4. Of course, you can see he ended up losing most of these tail end games, which are against a lot of strong, really well developed lists. Nova is a really potent environment and battleground. So I thought it was pretty cool because he also brought a quite off meta Dread Mob list where there was a lot of units that not a lot. There are several units here that I didn't necessarily agree with him bringing, though he's a channel member, he's a Discord member, he's been around for a hot minute. So we talk all the time. And I'm glad that he openly disagreed with some of the things I said and came with his own twist. Yeah, one thing that he really did like that, I was able to convince him on, shout out to Brandon, was Zodgrod and the Kommandos. Yeah. So let's take a look at my boy Brandon's list. We have 2 units of big mechs with shock attack guns, followed by Boss Snikrot as his warlord. He has 1 simple mech with Git Finder goggles for ignoring cover, and Zodgrod Wortsnagga. He does have that big Gretchen unit for Zodgrod, 3 small units of Gretchen, 2 trucks, 1 mech gun unit. This mech gun unit does have custom mega cannons, and that's because the mech for ignoring cover is with them. 2 dreads. Both of these death dreads are more suicidal than anything because they run 3 custom mega cannons and 1 dread claw, followed by 30 flash kits, so 3 10-man units, 1 commando unit with a breacher ram as the special weapon he brought, 2 lootas with custom mega blastas as the spanner weapons, and then a unit of storm boys. Now the reason why he brought custom mega blastas is because he wants better outcomes against high toughness units, and he wants more reliable amount of shot. He brought the death dreads, which I like to call the nukes because they kind of blow themselves up, because he wants to kind of try to destroy enemy transports and vehicles. If you can pop reroll hits and big shells for bigger gets on these guys, you can put really crazy damage on units, but some you really can't, which we'll talk about when we go over his win path. So overall, really cool that he actually ended up bringing 2 units of trucks. You don't really see those all the time in Dread Mob. The fact that he brought Kommandos and Zod felt really cool to see because he thinks, and I agree, that Mantle really help with Zod's ability to position. You can either use the infiltrators to stop enemy scouts. That way your scout can reactively move, or you can use them intertwined to pressure the enemy opponents, screen, stuff like that. So in tandem, they help each other. They make each other better. You can argue for either or individually, but together they really do benefit each other. It just becomes very expensive. And most people kind of overlook you when you're looking for Dread Mob because you're looking for more killing stuff, or you're looking for big walkers. So the fact that he was able to look through and past that and go to Death Dreads for their, what I would consider soft chassis and unreliable outcomes means that he was getting a lot of reps and he was really having a good time just playing the way he wanted to play. So that's why I really want to show this list, because he did very, very well until he went into the very, final echelons of Nova, which is totally fine because Orks aren't really in the position to even make it that far, right? So he was doing great and representing us well. Today's sponsor, Baron of Dice. So Baron of Dice has great dice. They have actually enabled us to give these dice out for our paint competitions. So I greatly advise that you go out there. We have a link in the description for 5% discount. That's of course because nobody likes taxes. Shout out to Baron of Dice because they are actually customizing Ork dice just for us that you guys will be able to get a hold of, and they look exceptional. So shout out to Baron of Dice. Really appreciate you guys, and I really do suggest you get them. I love the actual texture these dice have. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's take a look at his matchups. He did give me some very lengthy notes. So I'm going to try to go over these notes and not lose my place and such, and but try to give you the best amount of detail in a concise manner. So we have a Ork on Ork matchup. I'm gonna go over his list and then I'll read his note. We have, sorry guys, I was dealing with the thing right here. We have a Beast Boss on Squigosaur with Edwapa's Kill Chopper, a War Boss with Cunning and Brutal, 2 units of Beast Snagga Boys, 2 units of Boys, 2 truck, a Gorkanaut, shout out to him and Warhorde, a Gretchen unit, 2 kill rigs, love to see that, a big unit of knobs, and then a big unit of squigs, followed by storm boys. Overall, I like the list when you're talking about Warhorde, right, guys? Especially you're going to stick Gorkanaut in there, pretty cool. Squigs, this is a bit older. He said walking is for the gits, so he doesn't want to walk, of course. Overall, this is a solid Warhorde list, pretty fun and well-rounded. Yet, when we actually look at what Brandon's notes were, he said overall he felt like this list favored him. He felt like it wasn't as optimized as he thought, is the most meta. But of course, like we know here, Squighog Boys and Squighog Boys and Gorkanauts can be used in Warhorde. It's just when you're talking about how people are using Warhorde now, a lot of them are MSU. So when he says not optimized, he means there's not running with what's the agreed upon meta is the most the meta way to run Warhorde, which would be MSU. So he went for more like killing bricks and such like that. Then he uses Kommandos to deploy in the bottom of no man's land, stage Zod to take the top of no man's land. 1 unit of lootas went on top of his home objective because, of course, you're playing against other orcs. You're not really worried about the shooting the stage. And then he had his flash gets ready to kind of take an overwatch when the people start to play in the mid table. And as he put all the grots forward as he could to body block, he used Zod for his body blocking potential. And as the orc players slowly started to move onto objectives, he started getting overwatched. The lootas picked up the pigs really nasty, and Overwatch, of course, he rolled hot, but they definitely have the potential to do that, especially when they don't have invuln, because the sag can go off. And he said Zod, even though he got charged by Squighog Boys, he ended up surviving and helping the Flash Gitz kind of retain the home field objective. So it was a big win, 100 to 47 for this Ork on Orks matchup. Of course, it's hard when you're like going against someone who knows your army so well. And Dread Mob is one of those less studied ones, so you could forget. Imagine a reactionary move of 12 inches with Zod when you're playing Warhorde. You're like, oh my god, and all these grots start moving around and really getting in your way. So then he goes into his second matchup, which was Adeptus Mechanicus. So he had a weird list, and Brandon said this list was interesting to him. So he had Cohort of Cybernetica. He brought a data smith, a tech priest engines hero, a techno archaeologist, and Belisarius Hull, 2 units of Skatara Rangers, 1 unit of Sky Stalkers, 1 infiltrator unit, Cerberus Raiders, 2 units of Cerberus Raiders, 1 individual Iron Strider, 1 unit of Castle and Robots, 2 Onager Doomcrawlers, a Scorpius Disintegrator, 2 of them, and a Cerodian Dragoon. Gosh, that's so many units, guys. Gosh, I was like, oh, near my breath. Sorry, that's a lot of units. So this was an interesting one. And he said mostly it was because there's a lot of thickness of vehicles on this list, yet a good anti-infantry and some anti-vehicles. So he said, luckily he got to drop first, and he used his Kommandos to stop the enemy's infiltrators. If you want to see an example of this in the Kommandos 101 video, I have examples of how you would do this with your Kommandos to string them out effectively to stop yourself enemy infiltrators or stop yourself from getting Alpha Strike. He said he moved his infiltrators to the top side, so he knew that he was going to start the Admech player was going to start heavily deploying in favor of that side of the table. He said he started to throw down his more known / less quality deployments. So he started throwing his grots down and his lootas, kind of like the things you know where they're going to go and the things that you don't care if the enemy knows where they go. And then he put a Death Dread, a Grot Squad, and 1 Flash Gitz in reserve alongside the Storm Boys and Deep Strike. Pretty much what ended up happening here was the Zod and was able to run and touches on your Doom Crawler and hold everything in the deployment zone right there. He ended up calling a wall more for a defensive manner, which is very, very likely and very, very common when you're playing Dread Mob. Your wall ends up becoming a defensive factor. That's why when you bring something like Gaz, like we've seen on other lists, he's the only one that you're really caring to take advantage of it from offensively. But if you have Zod, then you're looking to take advantage of him and his movement capability, reactive move, and the durability. So very, very cool. So while he pretty much invested everything in that, he committed the objectives hard. And from that turn, Brandon was able to pretty much overwhelmingly firepower him because though it's a lot of units, they're not very durable and they're very susceptible to the orc volume of damage. So in that response, Brandon was able to take them out. And then he went into game 3. So into game 3, he went into the big hunt. It was a Beast Boss on Squigosaur, Shirley Squiggoth, another Beast Boss on Squigosaur with Glory Hog for that scouting, Mazarog, 2 10-man units of Snaggas, 1 Gretchen unit, 2 kill rigs, followed by 2 bricks of Squighog Boys, 1 small unit of Squighog Boys, and 2 units of Storm Boys. As we spoke about earlier, you having scouting and infiltrators ends up being a big factor in this kind of matchup or in this situation, which is very common at the higher end tables, guys. And when you start playing GTs, a lot of people are going to have infiltrators or going to have melee pressure, which is very favored in Nexus. So we have what happened here is essentially, so I can summarize it, he ended up using his infiltrators to stop the enemy scouting. Then he used all his grots to pretty much hold the enemy squigs in place. As the squigs ran into him, he ended up taking Overwatch, ended up starting to get shot while he's on objective. objective. And from there, he was able to pop his rigs and pop those kind of things and deal with the infantry that was inside. The enemy did end up getting turn 1, meaning he had to force himself to come out and end up getting killed, which meant he got killed in the Overwatch from that way. And the enemy kind of just got stuck in the fight with Zod, which honestly is very, very common, guys. If you start playing with Zod, you realize how obnoxiously durable he can be, especially with the wall, which is what you're looking to do. Of course, this was also Purge the Foe. So since it was Purge the Foe, he was very much okay with just holding the enemy in place and then killing him as he went, and the enemy getting bogged down by getting in fights with that, and just killing what he could as he could. So yeah, he said he was just pretty much holding it, and that's what happens when you have scouting and infiltration, guys, which is a backbone of Ork losses sometimes, when you could just double down on getting in the way. That kind of matchup works against, World Eaters as well, Gene Stealer bombs, let's say Vanguard Tyranids, where they want to bomb up on you, run up on you. Having those tech pieces really help in that matchup too. So then we have his 5th matchup, which this is when he starts taking some L's, no, he won this one too. I lied. This is 4th matchup, right? Yeah. Almost jumped ahead, guys. In this 4th matchup, he won this one as well. He went into a Drakari game, which was actually very close. It was a 85 AV81 game. He said it was very cagey, that he was anchoring, he had no infiltrators, and so that he was able to see his ability to what he was trying to stage up because everything was kind of on the field. Overall, it was a lot of shenanigans with reactive moves, trying to bait him out. Both of them kind of playing cagey and worrying about trying to kill each other's valuable units, which was the Avatar and the Death Jesters, and then some of the guards, some of the Wraith Guard. Overall, he said he just had enough volume to kill him and kill the scoring units, and as they started to run out of time, they both agreed on their potential and came to the consensus of the score. Then he went to his 5th game, which against Blood Angels. This game, I should show it. Sorry, guys. I jumped. So that's what happened to our Aeldari game. He pretty much said it was very cagey. He had a bunch of play-by-plays, but honestly, I'm not going to go over all the play-by-plays on stream, so you guys can check that out in Discord. But this, in his 5th game, he went into the Blood Angels. And this game was actually on stream. So he said this is the stream game, so you can go watch this. Let's take a look at this Blood Angels list. He has a captain with the jump pack, Commander Dante, Lamartis, sanguinary piece with 2 sanguinary priests with jump packs, of course, for that 5 Feel No Pain, very obnoxious, and then Sanguinor. We have 3 units of intercessors with jump packs, followed by 2 bull predators. These guys are essentially mini versions of Land Raider Redeemers. They get great flamers that are strength 6 -2 damage. Then he has 2 Death Company Dreadnoughts, followed by a brick of Death Company Marines and a Reaver Squad. The Reaver Squad's cool, different, twist. What he's saying here is he pretty much used Zod units and the Kommandos to string out, act like a nice big screen, which is typically what he always does for melees, which is what I showed in the Kommandos one-on-one video as well. So you can check that out if you want like a visual of this, right? And he said he did that so you can bait out the enemy, so that they could stand on the objectives and get rerolls. And what he's saying, if I could again, I would call a turn 1 with Wall, with Zod, and the Kommandos to take advantage of that and run up into him and try to get the initiative on him as well. And then he said he did as expected, and he committed both bricks on the objectives in the shooting phase, but the player ended up making more Feel No Pains than he expected. In response, right, whenever you're an Ork player and you go into something like a Space Marine Blood Angel unit, if you don't kill him when you kill him, whatever's left over ends up going crazy and killing you pretty hard. And he said that pretty much after that, those big fat 5 Feel No Pain units running forward and hitting him, the next wave of pressure with the Death Company Dreads and the Death Company Marines, which he just simply couldn't withstand and got overrun, which I can understand that, dude. Very killy, this list, and Blood Angels. We'll see how they look going into the future as they're getting their book. Then we have the 6th game. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, guys. He had a lot of games. He ended up losing this one, too. So he wins against Astra Millitarum. We have Gaunt's Ghost, Lord Solar Leontis, Platoon Command Squad, Tank Commander, Infantry Squad, Adeline Rough Riders, Bullgrin Squad, Hellhound, 3 Hellhounds, 2 Rogel Dorns, a Tempestus Command Squad, 2 of them. Very well-rounded list, I would say. I'm very familiar with this. Surprisingly, I'm familiar with Guard simply because I own Scions and I like Morning Glory. Shout out to him. So you have Ghost with their infiltration and other different shenanigans like reactive move, I believe. Solar Alliances for the free CP, and then Platoon Command Squad to really throttle the shooting just alongside with those tank commanders. And the Rough Riders are good for counter punching when people get stuck in your Bullgrin Squad. So what he was saying here was this was a was this the Bullgrin Squad? Make sure I don't mess this up, guys. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, maybe he messed up his own note. He wrote for game 6 it was Salamanders, which is the next one, I think. Did I miss something, guys? Hold on, maybe I missed one. This is game 5. Yep. And then game 6. Sorry, guys, I'm just making sure. He wrote Salamanders for that game, but I think he meant that wrong. What he was saying was Okay, yeah, he did. I think he did this out of order, guys, just so you know, when he was looking at his yeah. He did it out of order when he sent me the notes. Sorry, guys. He said this was his game 8 when it wasn't. Sorry for that. So whatever. So this one he was saying it was super hard in the bill slithing phase. He didn't know any counters to this list. He pushed the Hellhounds forward, the Rogaldorns, and the Tank Commanders, able to pop everything that he wanted. That was a vehicle or armored. Hellhounds fried the Commandos in Zodgrod. He melted all his lootas when they came out. Zodgrod as well. I mean, the flash kits as well. He said he had a good job of taking out the mech guns, and he went first. Why I'm not in favor of a bunch of mech guns, because they're so freaking slow when you can get an angle and they're just gone, and they're super soft. Honestly, for Astra Millitarum, even though you're like you can bring gas for like the killing thing and such, even then it's very difficult. So when, like I said before, if it's a very optimized guard list, you're going to face a lot of problems, and Brandon just admits that. So do a bunch of different orc players. Let's take a and so no shame there in losing to those guys. Sometimes it just happens. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7. His 7th game, he went into Space Wolves. Yeah, okay. This one's good. So pretty much this was Storm Jail, guys, which you guys are familiar with because they have been storming the meta with the Stormlands for quite a hot minute. So he said he was excited for this matchup. Let's take a look at this one because all Space Wolf jails are a little different. He has Herald Deathwolf, followed by 3 Wolfguard battle leaders on Thunderwolves, followed by 2 Wolf Lords on Thunderwolves. He has 3 units of 5 Jump Pack Intercessors, Scout Squad, 2 5-man units of Wolfen, followed by 3 big bricks of Cavalry, and 2 Vindicators, which Vindicators are awesome. Honestly, Vindicators are pretty awesome. A little jelly. Of course, they have access to Armor of Contempt. They can pop smoke, and they have a base 2 of armor save with like toughness 11, I believe. So they're at a really stupid and really good like defensive point. The fact that they can shoot their blast weapons in combat is also pretty nice for them. I think they work good for Thunderwolves. The issue here, which is exactly how Brandon played into this Thunderwolf lift, which sucked for the Thunderwolf player. What happened was Brandon used his commandos to place in the middle, like he's been doing for several of these games as we've covered, to string along and hold the enemy's infiltrators out. That way, and he played Snikrot touching the middle objective outside of 4 inches of the commandos, and the scout squad moved Zodgrod towards the middle and started the conga line. He said when he got first turn, he advances Grot in the conga line, blocking him out of the middle and on top of no man's land, screening against 2 of the squads of dogs, but leaving just enough of a path for him to actually tag the middle objective, but without being engagement range of Zod, pretty much. So in that sense, he baited his reactive move, and when he reactive move, and the unit ended up in the objectives, he was later able to overwatch with the lootas onto that unit. When the dogs started to get stuck in and try to fight Zod and try to fight the commandos, it just left him more open. Left him more in the open, and in that case, he was able to just simply kill him more and more. There were some more little nuances to that, but all in all, being able to pretty much control where the Space Wolf, Thunderwolf cavalry can end up and baiting them onto objectives is very much how you kill them, because though they have defensive capabilities to this, a lot of the time they're hoping you hitting on 6s will be a factor, like a big detriment to them, and you're already hitting on 6s as the orc player, so you don't really mind, and you just have all the volume of damage that you're like, okay, take 3-ups and take 4-ups, I'll just kill you anyways, with all these damage 2s, and that's just enough to melt through them. So he ended up winning that with a 92-point win. It's funny because him and I have talked about that Space Wolf matchup so many times, and I'm glad he had the tools to really melt him, because that Space Wolf matchup is actually one of the reasons why I looked into Kommandos and Zod so meticulously and was so adamant about them, because they were taking over the meta when I was suggesting them the most. So shout out to Brandon. I'm glad that worked out for you. You got that fat win. Then we come down to his last 2 games. So here we have the Salamanders. It's a Captain in Gravis armor. These are the Firestorm Assault, of course. Captain in Gravis armor, Captain with jump pack, 2 of them, Lieutenant with combi weapons, Aggressor, 2 units of Intercessors with jump packs as mech units, 1 5-man units of Intercessors with jump packs, 2 units of 3 Eradicators, 1 Land Raider Redeemer, 1 Repulsor Executioner, another Repulsor Executioner, 2 Scout Squad. So what you're saying here is the table full of flaming nonsense was very, very problematic for him. A bunch of small units of 5-man Intercessors ended up playing a bit of a factor. He said, I played my normal commandos to kind of hold them out the middle, but opponent got first turn. So as he scouted and he tried to bait with Zod, the player didn't really take advantage of it, and he stayed in the Land Raider and just parked the Land Raider in the middle. Does happen, which having a Gorkanaut would help you, but then the Gorkanaut's super susceptible to getting shot from other anti-tank. Having gas does help with that, but then you do need to sacrifice a big chunk of other things. But that's usually why you bring like a gas for Land Raiders, but that's so hard to see in hindsight. That's just like that one matchup. This is the right play for the Space Marine player. That was a huge factor, and Brandon does admit to that staying in the Land Raider and just parking him in the middle was very hard, as his lootas just had a hard time killing him, and he wasn't taking the bait of things to kill. So long story short, even though he didn't pop the Land Raider, he still had a hard time killing the aggressors when they came after the looters. They killed them, and he wasn't able to hold primary. The player did a great job of screening the whole time, and he couldn't do a secret mission with Snikrot, which was what he was trying to do at the end. But like we said, guys, when you start getting to those really elite players, they're not letting let you get away with deep strikes, with Snikrots, and stuff like that, because at the top level, that's what those people are due to beat each other at the very end of the game. They're like, okay, I only have to beat you by 5 points. So they know, don't let people get any kind of free points or positioning, because that could just throw the game away from you. You know, a lot of the time, that's why I bring 2 units of Grots, because I'm looking to screen, and that's what that get did too. So it happens, dude. It just happens. It's a hard matchup, dude. All those flamers and stuff, dude. Salamanders. Then we have his final matchup, which was into Space Wolves. This one was a different version of Space Wolves, of course. Make sure I didn't miss this one, guys, for me from his notes. So then this one, he had Space Marines, Gladius Task Force with Space Wolves. I'm making sure I didn't miss this one, guys. No, oh, nope. He said, let me read this real quick. We have Ragnar Blackmane. Yeah, Ragnar is kind of cool. Ulfric the Slayer. Wolfguard Battle Leader on Thunderwolf. Another Wolfguard Battle Leader on Thunderwolf. 1 unit of Assault Intercessors. A unit of Blood Claws. 2 units of Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs. An Infiltrator Squad. Land Raider Redeemer. Repulsor. Another Repulsor Executioner. 2 units of Scout. A Brick of Thunderwolf Cavalry, and a Caladius Assassin. So he said this game was close, and it was his to lose. He was really just pretty fatigued from playing a lot of Warhammer, is what he's saying, which I could totally understand, guys. This is game 9, I believe. Or 8 or 9, whatever. And he said he did a great job by blocking out the Thunderwolves and everything, but he did a good job at picking out the Land Raiders and stopping them from getting into the middle and the trucks. But the other player focused really good on popping his trucks, feeding him a little more of the lootas than he wanted to Yeah, he ended up exploding the lootas a little more than he wanted to, than killing them. He also ended up rolling Hazardous, which eventually caught up to him and killing him. He lost a bunch of the skirmish exchanges, and he wasn't able to score from his secret mission as well. Oh, wait. Yeah, pretty much he didn't do his broken wall secret mission, and he lost the game by 4 points, I believe. So shout out to him. When you're playing that deep into it, anything can happen. That's a close game, because that's a bit more of a diverse Space Marine, Space Wolf list, which means you have more tools and reaction abilities to it, and your profiles go well into it. So shout out to him. So shout out to Brandon for bringing his unique Dread Mob, which is 2 big mechs with shock attack guns, Boss Snikrot, 1 mech with Get Finder goggles that goes alongside those 3 mech guns, Zodgrod Wortsnagga with the Super Grots, 3 10-man or 3 minimum size units of Gretchen alongside the big unit, 2 trucks, 3 mech guns, but 1 with the all 3 of them with the custom mega cannon with the mech attached to make up for that crappy AP, 2 Death Dreads, 3 units of 10 flash kits, 1 commando, 2 10-man unit of lootas. Both the spanners in each unit have custom mega blasters, followed by the Storm Boys unit. So shout out to Brandon and his Dread Mob list for doing so great at Nova, having such a long, strenuous win path, and really facing it, going toe-to-toe with the top of the meta. So you can't win a mob, but you definitely represented. You made the Death Dread actually get their time in the sun, and I hope you consider dropping them so that you can play the mid-table a little bit more. Right? So shout out to Brandon for the Dread Mob. Whoa. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!